So let's look at some big sites with examples of good sitemaps and bad sitemaps, and we'll take a look at these individually. We're going to start with Sears. These are all examples of good sitemaps first. The URL isn't great, but I really like what they're doing here as far as category organization. You can see they have multiple sitemaps. They could be much better URLs, but you can see what they're doing here with categorization so that you can drill down in each area, and they have really, really good product, or not product, but category, subcategory sitemaps, and then you can drill down right to the product, so you're within a few clicks of almost every product from the sitemap on every page. You always have that sitemap there at the bottom, right here, and then you have the different categories. So they're doing a very nice job over at Sears. Second, we have Zappos is often credited with doing a very nice job. They're doing the similar type of technique here. Categories, a good category and subcategory categorization, and you can see that they have sitemaps then to their brand pages. They could just be to secondary sitemap pages, but they are doing an overall good job here with the way they decided to create this sitemap. Hotel TripAdvisors. This is another example of a great sitemap. They're doing all their, they obviously have tens of thousands, if not hundreds or thousands or millions of pages, and they have all their destination pages. They've prioritized, you can see their destination pages based on locale and different areas, and then they've organized those so that they have category and subcategory listings here. So if we're going to New Zealand, it takes you right directly to that page. But they're doing an overall nice job of just the categorization by locale. Williams and Sonoma is another one. I really liked what they're doing here by category, subcategory, and even some specific products on this on the sitemap here. And then you can see most of these don't have sub-sitemap pages like they probably could, but they go directly into the product pages or the product categories, which serve as kind of a sitemap in e-commerce type of websites. So Edmunds, you can see this one's getting a little aggressive with the local plus car dealers, local plus auto repair, but they're doing an overall nice job. They have both an alphabetical view and a category view. So there's different ways to organize the website. This is a good example of different approaches you could take, and you can make an argument for either of these. But overall, they're using good anchor text. They have good categorization. All of these pages are within a few clicks of every single page, making them more accessible to the search spider. So these are good examples of nice sitemaps. Beso is really got a nice one. I really like what they're doing here. They have sub-sitemaps. This is really what I look for a lot of times. So they almost have a whole sitemap structure under here. You can see all of these sub-sitemaps in different category structures. They have lots and lots of pages. I'm willing to bet they're getting indexed pretty well. Pronto is another. You can see they're doing that same thing with sub-sitemaps. Sitemaps for baby feeding, sitemaps for everything else. I'm not a huge fan of the URLs here, but I do like what they're doing with the different types of sub-sitemaps here. This is really a great approach. And you can see they probably have lots of pages indexed for these sitemaps and lots of good quality indexation as a whole. They're doing a good job with that crawl path priority. Buy cheaper, again, subcategories, categories, subcategories, all very well linked. You can see these are all different approaches, but they all have their own virtues. Hotels.com I didn't like at first. I said, this looks really terrible. And then I clicked on top destinations and I saw, oh, okay, well, they have all of these. They have all of these, all countries. So they're doing a decent job here. They could probably do it a little bit different and a little bit better, but as a whole, they're doing a pretty good job here. They have some different types of sitemaps, and they do have it linked here at the bottom as site index. I would prefer that be sitemap, but overall they're doing a nice job. So next we'll look at some examples of poor sitemaps. Okay, so who's screwing up their sitemap? Number one, Hilton. There's just nothing here. This is not all the pages on the site. There's so many things that they could be linking to in categories, subcategories, all their local hotels, and they just have these 20 or 30 things on their sitemap that are pretty unimportant pages for the most part. They're packages. They're just not pages that they're really trying to rank high for, the URL is atrocious. Just really not a good example of a sitemap. They can do a whole lot better for a big brand like this. I saw some of these brands that didn't even have sitemaps. I believe Office Max and BH Photo, neither of them even had sitemaps, and these are great big brands that don't even have an HTML sitemap, which is just terrible. Target, this is another one. They're trying to do a little bit of categorization here, but they only have about 100 links on their main sitemap, their main index sitemap. This is just not even sufficient, and it's just pretty random. So this is another example of a sitemap that's not so good. Booking Buddy is really absolutely atrocious. I'm sure they have thousands of pages that they're trying to get indexed, and these are just they're only linking to about 20 of them right here on the sitemap, and it's just, the privacy policy is not something that needs to be on there, not something that needs to be indexed all the time. You could probably even have that no index, no follow. It's not something people are looking for on your site for the most part. They may want to know at a certain point, but it's just kind of a legal issue more than it is something that your users or a search engine is going to be looking for. Best Buy is okay, but the organization here isn't all that good, and the URLs are pretty bad. It's not terrible, but they can do a better job here with the way that they're organizing this. Staples, again, for the thousands or tens of thousands of products that they probably have here, this is not a great way to do it. There could be a search here maybe, but just really not a great example of a sitemap. Pro Flowers, these guys got way too aggressive. Flower Delivery has been notoriously competitive actually, and what they're doing on this one is both singular and plural versions. Look at this. So we have Alabama State Flower and Alabama Flowers. Then Arizona State Flower, etc., etc. So they're doing multiple versions, just a little bit too aggressive. They're trying with the anchor text, so it's not terrible. It's better than some, but just a little bit overly aggressive with the anchor text in singular and plural. So these are examples of sitemaps not to emulate. So we've looked at some ideas for good and bad sitemaps as a whole, so that we know what we should do with our HTML sitemaps. So a few general tips and best practices for sitemaps. You should always, as I mentioned, have your sitemap linked from every page in the footer. There's no reason you shouldn't have this. It should always be called sitemap. Yoursite.com/sitemap. That's all you need. You should always have your index page organized in a logical fashion. We looked at some good and bad examples of this and how you're breaking this down, as well as using descriptive anchor text in that organized logical fashion. In the first index level, you should probably have maybe 1 to 400 links, but then you can have sub-sitemaps, and we looked at a lot of places that weren't doing that when they probably could have been, and you want to have about 100 to less than 150 at that second, third level of sitemap. And then one very underutilized technique in SEO is linking from external sources to your sitemap. This is the jump-off point. This is your index, your crawl path priority and indexation homepage, if you will. This is a really powerful page, and sending some link equity to that can sometimes be very, very beneficial, and as I said, an underutilized technique. Using WordPress as your CMS is a really easy way to go about this. If you create sectional sitemaps or organized sitemaps, as we talked about for Webmaster Tools, Google and Bing, you can get some indexation feedback there and see what's going good, what's going bad, and fix those problems and diagnose them. You can create sitemaps for different content groups, Flash files, MP3s, PDFs, etc. And be aware of the limits. You can only have 10 megabyte files or 50,000 URLs, and you're going to want to use gzip. Talk to your technical team about that one. It's just a way to shrink files. And then finally, to look at what's getting indexed, you can do these commands here. You can sort by date for the past week or the past 3 months or the past day, and you can see what's getting indexed and start learning about your web indexation rate. This is a great tip from Ann Smarty at SEO Smarty. So some of the resources used for this presentation are listed here below. Some good stuff to catch up on and keep learning about sitemaps.